first, do I have your permission to start recording?
Yes.
Awesome. So this is David Morris. He is the Senior Vice President of Learning and Leader Development within Carrington Mortgage Holdings. And I've selected him for this conversation about meaningful work because I honestly look at David as a mentor. He's uh, been studying leadership. He's a IO expert according to his his LinkedIn, and I know that he means a lot to me. He's further along in the career and eventually where I'd like to get to with leader development specifically. So I do want to let you know that this is intended to be more of a conversation as opposed to a one-sided interview. So I want to just start with what type of work do you do, either in or outside the home?
Sure. Well, since the COVID-19 pandemic, we were in the office 5 days a week, full time. But then, during the pandemic, we were home and we've been working primarily from our home offices for the last 6 years. And the type of work that we do is kind of twofold. So I oversee the training and development teams. We have dedicated teams for our major lines of businesses. So we've got dedicated teams for, we've got 3 dedicated teams that support new hire training, field training, systems training, more of the core training and development. And then during the pandemic, about a year into the pandemic, late 2020, early 2021, there was a big need to bring back our leader development programs because of the remote workforce. And the good leaders were able to adapt and change, but going remote really put a magnifying glass on our weaker leaders. They were unable to, they weren't doing a great job leading their teams when they are on site. Now add the additional complexity of trying to, do that remotely. And so the business had asked us to bring back our leader development programs. We had mothballed them, not necessarily got rid of them. We never get rid of anything, but we just kind of put them on a hiatus for a couple of years, and then we're bringing those back. So today, I oversee a team of about 25 people that design, develop, and deliver performance-based and employee-centered training to support the business and their needs. So
Awesome. I love it.
yeah.
So I know I sent you the work values list. I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Were you able to look at that document? No worries. It's okay. I can
But
pull it up. It's okay.
pull it up and we'll
Great.
look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the work values list here, and I would love for you to tell me what your uh, favorite or the work values that are important to you. And once you're done, I'll
Absolutely.
go ahead and share mine. So
How
there's
many do I get to pick?
your top five. So you can
Top
choose as
five.
many as you want, but I want to know your top five for sure.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, and I apologize.
no
Josiah did
worries.
send this to me earlier and I forgot. Let me
It's all good.
how far down does it go?
There's 2 pages. In
Okay,
fact,
well I can see that whole page there. So let me look at all these
sure.
and then I'll look at the other ones. All right, let's look at the next one. The next page. It's only got $5 I can spend. So
This one starts with intellectual stimulation and
yeah.
it ends with work under pressure. So I'll go back. In fact, let me see if I can make this a little smaller. Oh, now you can't see. Sorry.
All right, I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome. Okay. So
So
talk to me about your top
go
five.
up and I'll come off, go up there and I'll do it. So um so um um the third one, aesthetics, right? Really important, the look and feel of stuff on how it looks for me. It shows up in my
Okay.
some of my stuff, right? So you're like, okay, to be involved in studying or appreciating the beauty of things, the idea is to be in a position that is beautiful and aesthetically pleasing. But think about how we design and develop training, right? So it's
Okay.
the look, the fit, the finish, the feel, right? As you know, around like, oh, we can make that look a little bit better. You're like, that's where that's coming from, right?
I,
So
I never thought of it that way, but
yeah,
that's a great way
yeah.
to look at stuff.
Sam and I have that in common, right?
Okay.
So she's better at it than I am, but it's like she could actually create beautiful things. I just can recognize, I just like demand them. Just kidding. Can't make anything beautiful, but there's that one. And
Sure.
then on this list going down,
Mhm. Any more on this first page?
yeah, I'm kind of deciding. There's a few
Sure.
more on the other page, but
Mhm.
I like the help others directly.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Talk to me about that one.
Yeah, oh, just, I mean, in my whole life, and it's funny, my son, he's going to nursing school. My whole family, we've got that helping gene, right? Like
Mhm.
growing up, my mother and my grandmother would take in strays, like not animals, people, and nurse them back to health, or just volunteer, help them. They were doing hospice care and stuff before, you got that, and they weren't registered or anything like that. They were just, the caring. And so it's kind of in our blood. And it's one of the reasons why I picked human resources as a profession, because I can help and be in a support role,
I
and
love it.
I just like helping others, right?
That's
But
awesome.
it's not. It's interesting though that helping others, it's providing helping others, but it's the hard help. It's not the like, I want to make things easy for people, and because there's that like, oh well, I want to help, like I want to give to charity. I want to no, I want to make you feel better. And Josiah, you might be able to, with your Marine Corps background, it's like no. This is going to be hard. This isn't going to be easy. I'm not this.
Correct.
There's a hook to it, right? Like we're gonna,
Yes.
because I score very low on like things like altruism, of
Mhm.
around just like I don't do a lot of volunteer time, like for charity stuff, but I volunteer, I mentor, people call me up, I volunteer my time to help coach people, but it's
Mhm.
not charity. It's like, no, we're gonna sweat. We're gonna
Yes.
sweat,
That's
right?
awesome.
Yeah.
And
So, but that one, so just to kind of explain there and help
sure.
others directly. So yeah, you can go ahead and scroll
Let's
down
go down.
to the next one. So that's two. So I've got
Mhm.
three more, right?
Three more.
Uh, I'm gonna hold on to that one. Uh, is money compensation the last one?
No, here we go.
No,
Money
and
compensation,
work
work independently and
independently.
work under pressure.
Okay, so this will sound a little. So go up
Okay.
because I got them. Intellectual stimulation, to work on things to keep my mind active and force me to think about difficult concepts. I love science. I'm very science oriented, and so that one, this is a great job. We're always learning stuff, right? And then we have smart people on our team, so we're able to talk about stuff. And not only in the leader development, but in training, but also the operations. And Jaron and I, we were in the systems today trying to figure out how to plug a leak, right? And then we were like, root cause. Oh wait, that's what it is. And he figured it out. I didn't. I was just sitting there. I was just asking him questions, and he figured it out. So I like that. I've gotten antsy in opportunities, or in situations and jobs. I struggle right now with this with my social groups, because a lot of my social groups are in the public school systems, and they're very fine people, but the conversation, sometimes I sit there and I'm a little like, I'm looking, like I always get excited when I meet somebody who's just thinks, a little differently, right? So that
Yes.
one's definitely a value that I have.
Awesome.
And then teamwork and working with others, right? Which is kind of like that helping, but I don't, it's probably the biggest struggle I've had working from home, is not being able to be around people. And it's not needy. Like I'm very like, I don't need people around me. It's not a lonely thing. I just think team sports are better than individual sports. Like I just
Sure.
think it's just, you get more done, you get better ideas, you get things done faster. And so many times I find myself, I'll be working on something, and then I'm like, I'll call somebody up, let's work on this together, let's have a working session, let's pull together a team. So that one's very important to
Awesome.
me. um, and then the last one I'm going to say, because that's four or five, is working
Correct.
independently. Working
Okay.
independently, right there on that page. And that might sound counterintuitive, just saying that, like, well, you teamwork and working with others. and maybe it's I didn't see it on here, but I'm gonna order off the menu here a little bit. I'm gonna say working independently when I see that as having autonomy, right?
Hmm.
I
Yes.
don't really like being told what to do. Like, trust me, like I'm gonna do the right thing, even when no one's looking. It's one of our values.
Sure.
I don't need to be told what to do. It's like I'm gonna, what I'd rather do is like, hey, here's the situation. This is what I think we should do. Allow me to do that, and I'm open to feedback. But I've had jobs before where it's like, this is what we do. I want you to do exactly this. Do not change. And I just did not last very long in those roles, right? I figured out different departments to go, and so that working independently, even though it may sound a little counterintuitive to like, oh, wait a minute, it's more,
It's
the
the
projects by
autonomy.
myself with that. Well, okay, because I read the whole thing now. To be in a job where I do projects by myself without any significant amount of contact with others, we can't use that one, right? We
Okay.
can't use that one. I can't change it. So let me go up here, and because there's a couple other ones,
Up to the
I see
first
it right
page.
now. I
Okay.
see it right now. Making a difference. I still
Oh,
have not ever let go that I still feel the work that we do, even though, we're Sisyphus and we're pushing that boulder up the hill, and every morning we come back and the boulder's at the bottom of the hill. Even after 25 years, I still feel like what we do, if we just put a little bit more effort in, if we think things differently, just you and I've had that
for sure.
conversation, that we could have an effect. We can still make a difference. I haven't become jaded yet, right? And I have a lot of colleagues of mine that are all like, it doesn't matter, right? Like they do a good job, they're smart, but they're like, it's not going to make any difference. And I still think that it is. So there's my thought.
Awesome. Sounds great. I will let you know that we share a couple values
Oh,
or
nice. What do we
work
share?
values. So, the first one that I chose is intellectual stimulation. Uh,
Nice.
and the reason I chose that is because I was I need something more to do than just push the button, make it go, push the button, make it go. My job in the Marine Corps was communication electronics equipment repair. Well, that's all flow charts and like, all right, if this, then this, if not this, then this, and going through that.
Yeah.
It was not stimulating to me. So, and that's why I sought opportunities outside where I became instructor, like the drill instructor,
Yeah.
martial arts. I did non-lethal weapons and just teaching different stuff. So that's intellectual stimulation first and foremost. And this is the thing too. I think if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. So that's why I want to go. I want to surround
Yes.
myself with people that know more than me. Like, you know. My second one was help others directly. So you and I share that one as well. Help others directly. Specifically, I like is where it says to be involved in helping other people in a direct way, either individually or in small groups. And I think that's what I'm trying to accomplish within Boost. It's the small groups,
Yes.
it's the cohorts that we're teaching and saying, hey, look, this is what's going on, and we're trying to get you to do these behaviors, but like you said, let's sweat it out. And I bought into that mindset, and that was my number two value. Um, I wanted to change it to influence people, but which I compared with Mike and Rosie. They both chose influence people, but I like the helping others directly.
Yeah,
Get you where
that.
I'm going,
Yeah, no, yeah, and Noah and Rosie and Mike, they definitely have that in common. It's part of their
right?
personality, right?
For sure.
There's they want it. That's funny. That's funny how, yeah, because we know them very well, right?
Sure. The third one that I chose was flexible hours. So I have work responsibilities, or I can work here according to my own time schedule. And I think align that a little more up with some autonomy when we were talking about
Yes,
earlier. I like that
that's
because I
probably the
can,
closest fit.
right,
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
I have something else on that. I'll share that next. But the flexible hours specifically, I get to go attend my daughter's sixth grade
Yep.
promotion on Monday, and the see my son go swim, and as
Yeah.
long as I'm adding value still to
Remember
my
when we
job.
couldn't do that? You'd have
Yeah.
to let your supervisor know like 6 months in advance that
Yes.
you wanted to take an
Yes.
afternoon off, and then that would get denied because you'd have a new supervisor like every 6 weeks. Like that happened to me one time where I had a vacation, and but I had like manager changes, and it was a special thing because it was during kind of a blackout
Sure.
period, but it was a big deal and I got it approved, but then it would get canceled. Like, I'm like, are you guys kidding me? Like, like just, I'm like, what, my next job is not going to be like this, right? So yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
that's a good point though.
that's
Yeah.
especially important to me now because I missed birthdays and anniversaries and holidays in the military. So
Yes.
and this is
Well, I'm
it
glad that we're
aligns
able to
perfectly.
provide that here for you. And
It is that is the one of the best parts of the job. Like I said, work values, that's high on my work values. If I were, I'm not saying I'm going to, but if I were to look for another position somewhere, they'd have to have
yeah,
if uh, enough, if not more, flexible hours. The same thing. My fourth one that I chose was respect. So this one, I looked at to feel admiration and appreciation for the work that I do. I like that being not necessarily the recognition, but the respect because, and I saw that once again more like autonomy. Like I love the way you advocate for our team. When if somebody's attacking our programs, so to speak, you're like, no, 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 this is what we're doing, and that's to me, that's what we respect. They're like, hey, we're adding value here to the company, and that you stick up for. So that's the respect, and also on the counter of that, the respect to that I know what I'm talking about and getting into it. Like that's I think honestly that's why Boost was hard for me at the beginning. Like, oh, this is the content I wasn't straightly aligned with. And they're like, hey, try this. And a lot of your aesthetics came in place. And they're like, hey, look, make this look like this or make it
yeah.
look
And we're working
better.
on we're going to build a workbook, a
Yes.
killer workbook, right? So
So that's I love that, and that you listen to my ideas, that you respect what I have to offer. So that's my fourth one.
I get it. Yeah. Well, hey, man, Marine Corps too. I wouldn't expect anything different, right? Don't disrespect a
Sure.
drill sergeant. Hey, by the way, I was looking up. We do have autonomy on here. I just skipped it. It was independence.
Ah, there it is.
It's right
Independency.
there.
And
Yeah,
I didn't even look at it like that. Yeah. Nice. Yes.
that's
So
exactly what it is. But I'm fine. I'm going to stick with my five, right? But
that,
we're in the same vein there. So
sure. My last
yep.
one was culture and community. So this one is to have opportunities to engage in, participate in educational, community, and cultural events. You know, I'm a big people person. I'm
Yeah.
very social. I love when we did our little summit in the office because I was able to go in there and show my worth in person. I'm like, I'm not just the guy behind the camera doing stuff, And I like that. I like the opportunity to go volunteer for the company sponsors Special Olympics. We did the Ducks 5K. We did
Yeah.
there's the golf classic every year. I don't care. It's I love going and interacting with everyone as well as moving on
That's
and
probably where you and I differ the most. Like
yeah,
I need to pull, especially working from home. I keep telling myself you need to get out there. You need to go out and participate and engage in the community, and I don't, right? So that's an aspiring one for me, but definitely not one that I'm doing right now. I tend to be more small group stuff, great. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, you're really outgoing, but I'm not extroverted, right? Like I'm like, no, I tend to, I'll kind of stick to myself. If I have a role, like we do in training, it's like, yeah, like, it's like, we all, we hadn't trained live in a long time. We stood in front of 40 people, IT, leaders a few months ago. You, me, Mike, and Christina, and it was like, yeah, that doesn't stress, I mean, of course you get a little nervous and this and that, but
sure.
there's no stage fright because you're like, I'm with my people and I have
Yes.
a role. If I had to do that like out in the public, no, like,
Yeah.
nope, nope, nope.
I get it. I understand. And
Yeah, that's
just
cool.
missing
Yeah.
my top five were teamwork and work with others, and then personal development. So that's specifically my last, like
Yep.
the ones that
Personal
missed.
development.
Yeah. So
Nice.
I love
Yeah.
that piece. So going back, going back to the questions, what did you
Yeah.
notice about the values that you chose? Do they have any? Do you see any common thread pool or anything?
Um, I mean, I think for me, it's there, my whole life is I've always, through communication and it's caused me issues before and in relationships, but it gets back to that find meaning. I don't like superficial things. I
Hmm.
like real, and I don't, the word authentic is used too much, right? But
Sure.
I don't like fake. On in my kitchen, I have a fake cabinet door that doesn't do anything. It's just aesthetic, right? It just sits there because they have
Mm.
one next to it. It doesn't work. It's like I want functional things. I want things to work.
Sure.
I want them to have meanings. I want conversations that I have to have meaning and not just be about, going through, I worked, I paid my way through school and, back when you could do that, right? My education was a lot cheaper. I couldn't do it now. You'd have to be a freaking, I don't think I could do it on my current salary and pay for school, right? Do you know what I mean? It's so expensive. But
Yes.
back then, if you worked, and you hustled, you could pay for your tuition and stuff. But but I worked at a few warehouse places, and the guys would get together and just talk, the guy talk, and it was just superficial. It was just all up here, and I was always kind of an outcast a little bit because it was like, yeah, I talk about sport, but that's all they ever talk about. So I think the overall thing there is two things: it's meaning and relationships, right?
I love
So
it. I
yeah,
love it.
I think those
So
would be the two threads. Yeah.
yeah, so notice anything. So aesthetics, helping others directly, intellectual stimulation, teamwork and working with others and making a difference. Did anything surprise you?
Probably and again, in this field, like, I've done lots of values exercises, right? And
Hmm.
so that's why I was kind of going through, and there's probably like two or three, but we're really close to it from those lists, and they keep showing up. The one that probably surprised me the most until it started popping up, was probably the aesthetics piece.
Okay.
But then somebody had told me, like, here's an aesthetics piece. I had a really crappy car, like, for years, right? A 1985 Chevy S10. But like, I would clean, like, in spots that nobody could see, but I knew, and it wasn't, and I'm not a clean freak, but it was, or something, it just didn't look right. Like, this was off, and it was like, no, 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 the hood was, I'm going to straighten the hood. The hood, no, in the paint. And if you fix the dent in the paint, like, it had to be perfect. Like, like, it would drive me crazy when people do bad body work and then paint it. And it's like, you can see the dents, like, fix, why would you do it? Well, I paint it, it's good enough. No, like, fix it. Right. So that, but my dad had picked that up on me, because I was like, he's like, no, 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 you were you know you've always had that. And then, like, you would we would, because I was always helping my dad out, but I was like, Dad, like, we got to straighten the garage out first. We got to put the tools away in a place where it makes sense, right? And so that, just stuff like that. But I never really, because I don't consider myself, and maybe because my dad, although he was a firefighter, he's very artistic. He's a very good drawer.
Hmm.
And his son, because he's my stepdad, but his biological son is a fantastic artist, right? All different modes and methods. And when I was growing up, we would draw, and I'm like, yeah, nowhere near that. So I never thought of myself as having that aesthetic thing, right? And so I
I
was
think
always like more analytical and this and that. But then as I get older, it's like, oh no. And especially coming into this training role, because in my other roles, I was an analyst or an operations for, there's not a whole lot of, but even in there, like, when I here, where I get out most is designing programs, even though you can't see them, right? We know, but we're not just throwing parts together, right?
true.
There's a form, there's a fit and a function. And so, but I'd say I was most surprised about the aesthetic. It took me probably until my late 30s to kind of like, oh wait, I do have that. And I started, it started popping up, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. I have no artwork. You've seen my calendar. I have this thing because my wife bought it for me. I have no artwork, but it's not that. It's like, I do the form, the fit, the function. It make To me, it's important on how it looks and how it feels, as much but it can't be fake. It has to have functionality. I don't like things that are like, it's just there for looks.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
hubcaps drive me crazy. Put rims on that car. Don't, they're fake. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yes.
they're not. Everybody knows it's hubcaps. Sorry, I'll
Okay.
get serious again. But
No,
yeah,
that's cool. No.
yeah,
So I want you, when you were mentioning about analysts and stuff like that, think about past jobs. Are there
yeah.
any values you chose now that would not have been on your list when you first started working? Once again, the aesthetics, helping others directly, intellectual stimulation, teamwork, working with others, and making a difference.
Probably, the older that I get, probably the more focus on teamwork. And I think it's part of giving back, right?
Sure.
Like, because you're learning stuff, and you're at that point too, where it's like, look. not that I know everything, but nobody ever does. But there's certain things that I think I'm pretty good at, and I see opportunity, or I figured out, and I want to help others figure that out. And I'm able to do that in a team environment. Versus when I first got started, we were always on a team, but we had individual projects and and
Sure.
stuff like that. And what would always bug me is like I'd figure something out that would work really good, and then because we were siloed, the other team they were making the same mistakes, and I'd be like, wait, no, and I got a good example of that. I could do pretty quickly, but I was an intern, and I was there for 3 months, and the companies were the parent companies were merging, and all of the jobs in LA, the whole department was moving to San Diego. None of the LA people were going to go. So like this was a 50-year-old, 100-year-old company, a 50-year that department had been around for 50 years. Imagine like our department had been around for
Mm,
50 years.
yeah.
And the people that were in there, I was an intern, but the full-time people had all been their tenure was like 15 years plus, right?
Wow.
And then within a few weeks, they all have different jobs or they took early retirement. And I'm just this stupid intern, like showing up to work. They forgot that they had an intern. Like for a week, I was like, where did everybody go? But they had done, again, they had 50 years of research. Well, and all this work. Well, when they went to the new, with this new company, their utilities, right? And they had all this work that could be used over here. Well, when they built the new team, that also included people from there, younger
Hmm.
people.
Hmm.
They didn't carry any of that stuff on, right? And it
Hmm.
was like, guys, why are we starting from scratch? Like, why don't we just use? And that's where I made the connection and ended up getting a full-time job there because my boss was like, wait, show me. I'm like, come up to LA. And I just opened it all up, because I would read all of this stuff I had a long train ride and I'd read all of this stuff just because I wanted to learn. And so it was that, right? But that team of like, I don't know. I guess I'm in that insurance commercial where I want to, it's like, don't be your parents, right? Like that's not your job.
Okay.
But I'm like, why are we making the same mistakes over and over if we see something? And I see that the older that I get, pulling people together, teams, and it's like, hey, just giving back more, right? Like, and
Nice.
I don't know if it's
That
useless. I
covers
don't
those
know if
two
that's a
values.
control thing or whatever, but
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, that's good.
But yeah,
Uh,
but earlier in my career, no, it's much more independent, much more independent. Like, I'm going to finish my race first and, like, leave you guys behind. And I got that feedback early, and it's like, hey, you're a really high performer, but like, you should look back every once in a while and see if any of your coworkers need, and I was always like, hey, like, run
we're
faster, right?
we're all adults here. Come on, we can do
Well,
this.
adults, right?
Yeah, I get it.
Try harder, but it's like, well, not everybody's meet at the same way. Older that I get, I've softened on that a little bit of just kind of like ego, right? Like I don't have to win.
Yeah,
Now it's more about it's not older that I get, it's less about me. It's more about,
yeah.
the team and other people. So
I'm a big believer in success is not a race. We can all get awards.
win-wins. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
win-win, right? Yeah. So definitely my lot less ego as I get older,
Sure.
because
Uh,
the more you learn, the more you know that what you don't know, right? So I'm always
true.
humbled, and even all the young management associates that we come in, and it's like that's some great ideas, right? And so I'm just like, just quit butting your head up against that, right? Like just just bring this down a little bit or bring this up a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah, awesome. So I do want to ask you if you've ever done an exercise like this where you identified your work values.
yeah.
Okay. And what was this time? What was it like? What was different? What was similar?
Oh, well, yeah, I've done some offsites where we sat down and we've done them through just, brainstorming, right? Where we didn't even have a list. We were just writing those down and turn those into values. But then I've done through card sorting where kind of like what you had where we'd sit there and we would sort them into maybe, no, and indefinitely, and then go through and do that. And then like through the Hogan suite of assessments, they have the motives, values, preferences inventory, and so they also have values that come out of that.
Sure.
And so I've done even for that'd be the most psychometrically, focused assessment. And
Yeah.
did you ask like, was there any overlap or any difference?
Oh yeah. Yes, for
Oh
sure.
yeah, very, very, very high high correlation, very, very high.
So is it safe to say you have you see potential benefits in identifying work values and sharing how about this? How about not just identifying the work values, but being able to share them with the people you work with?
Oh, well, I think that values is one of and I'm stealing this from Robert Hogan, personality psychologist, also the Hogan personality inventory, that Robert Hogan. But values is what keeps groups surviving over other groups, right? Groups, go back to indigenous people, and it's it's values, because values drive decision making, right? Like when you're like, I don't know what to do, you tend to go back to your values, and groups or people or teams that have better values and stick to their values are going to outperform the competition. Now, back in the old days, that meant, are you going to live or are you going to be murdered, and all of your stuff burned. Now, though, but I think that there's definitely, companies out there that have a better set of values, and I think those values do hold us. So I think it's extremely important for it. Robert Hogan, he said, I've read several places where he said, he's like, look, you can have lots of different personalities on a team, but you can't have different values. Not that they all have to be, like, oh, here's the company values and then they
Perfect
have to
alignment. Yeah.
match. But there's a lot of overlap, and you can kind of see
Sure.
all of that,
Yes.
right? And so, but you got to kind of have that same value structure. Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, super important. I think very understated in the world of work and in business. I think everything is about competencies and personality and styles and all of these things. And it's like, when it really comes down to it, it's like, if I always tell people, it's like, if something doesn't feel right, if you're like, man, something's just off, I'm not getting there, go back and do a values exercise. Go back to your values
Nice.
and see, how are you manifesting? How are you able to live those values? And typically you're like, flexibility is gone, or independence is gone, or ability to help others, and doing all these reports somewhere there. Like, usually there's something there, right? Something's
Yes.
missing from there, and then you got to figure out, how do I get back to that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that aligns with one of the assignments we just completed is about the culture of work. Like, hey, this is, and I think values leans heavily into that culture. Yeah.
Nice.
So that's great. So I do want to pivot a little bit. I want to see if you can share a time where a work experience did not feel meaningful to you. Specifically, he's talking about like a job or a work experience
Oh
in general.
yeah, here's a
Didn't feel
great
meaningful.
one.
Sure.
And I'll go recent. I got tons of those. But when I first started here at Carrington, we have, and we still do them, but now they're quarterly, but it's the SEP, the self-evaluation. I don't know what the P stands for. It's just SEP. It's self-evaluation. They're audits. And what
Okay.
you do, every department. And I haven't really shared this with you guys, but I run a department, so I have to come up with a list of controls that are in place that we want to make sure that happen every month.
Hmm.
And so you basically look at your department. What are the biggest risks, right? What are the big, well, here, people don't get assigned the wrong courses, or they don't
Hmm.
they get assigned the wrong courses, or they don't get assigned their compliance courses, right?
Okay.
So there's lots of that. And in HR, there's terminations, and there's, new hires, and entering in the right information, getting their compensation right, and all of that stuff. So
Mhm.
we go through on the departments and we identify controls in place. And so when I first came in, um, and I took this over, nobody sat me down. Here's what it is. Nobody gave me any context. Like, this is due every month. And I was doing them for all of HR. So, and these are self-evaluations. So the term self, we don't do the terminations, but we were doing the termination audit for Deanne's group, right? For the
Okay.
employer relations, which what that means is we're hiking down to the into the file room, pulling a terminated employee's file and making sure that the resignation letter is in there and the termination is in there, and that any things were filed with the state or whatever, right? And so, but when I was doing those, and I'll just give you one example, um, I did the audit and I was like, hey, we're missing the new hire paperwork here. And this is what my team did. They're like, oh, well, here, erase that one and just pick this person because I have their paperwork. And I'm like, this was 15 years ago, I was 40, and I'm like, what? Like, oh yeah, that's just what we do. I said, that's not an audit, right? And so I'm like, yeah, no, like where's this paperwork? Like there's a purpose of this. People are just going through checking the boxes. I can't, and it gets me in trouble sometimes. I can't just check the box on stuff,
Right.
right? Again, it's got to work. And but then so we cleaned that up. But then I noticed too, and I'm like, look, these aren't the right, like I you know, after 6 months or whatever, I kind of learned my job because you know you have to come and learn the job and the stuff. I'm like, some of these controls in place are good. Some of these are dumb and we're missing some, right? So like who set these up? And I reached out to the risk management team and they were like, well, you own those. Like you can, but nobody told me that. And so they were like, yeah, like you just, if you say it, right? So I fixed it. And then it took me 3 years to convince leadership here to like compensation should do their audit. It's a self audit. And employee relations should do their audits. It's a self audit. I was not the popular person because, you know, they had to do all this extra work, but it made sense, right? Because they were, I said, look, I'm doing this audit, but I don't have no control over the process.
Right.
So that it had to change. If they, I wouldn't have stayed here if it was just like, if they would have said, if Lori would have said, and Ginger would have said, shut up and just do it and just check the boxes. I'm like, no, like this isn't the work that I'm going to do. It's got to provide meaning. It's got to have an impact. Yeah.
Nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that was my follow-on question. What impact did it have on you? But that's good. I appreciate you
Oh
sharing that.
yeah. I mean, you know, I'll tell you this. Um, you don't see it, but on the training, it's mostly on the training side that I don't have them audit the leader development stuff because the auditors want to audit everything. You're like, stop, you know. But on the training side, when we took 10 years ago and I took over this team, it was me and Todd Smith, and he was brand new and he was my manager. And there was an audit that had already started, and then I get the job and they finished the audit. We had a D,
Mm,
and we had a list of all this stuff that was broken, right? And they were like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, this, and since then, Ace, we've never gotten anything less than an A, right? And that's 9 years of audit. So we've gotten one D and 9 A's. And I don't take responsibility for that D. I wasn't even in the department, but I was responsible for the findings, right? Because ownership.
yes.
But it was all about like no black box, like, hey, problem solving. What are we going to do that doesn't work? How do we fix it? How do we monitor it and stuff like that? So it's just caring.
Yeah. Nice.
There's
Uh,
a piece of excellence there too, right? It's just like
yes.
why do things halfway? Just
Correct.
do them right the right way
Right.
and a little better than that.
Do
Yeah,
it right, do it light, do it wrong, do it long.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So last question for you, Dave.
Okay.
I want you to think if you can remember a time where you felt personally fulfilled by your work. What type were you doing and what did it feel like?
Yeah. So very recent. You were part of this. So the IT summit that we
Mhm.
did, right? We get the request kind of a weird way, you know, and then it's like, you know, not a lot of direction, a little bit of direction, and then I'm coming up with kind of a plan, and then I bring you guys in kind of late, and you guys were great troopers, right? And to help me out, it was just because we had a lot of stuff going on in the holidays and stuff like that, and you guys did an amazing job. But then on day one, I remember like I got there the day before, and you
Hmm.
came up, right?
Hmm.
You know, and we met up and picked up Mike and stuff like that. But I remember Ginger saying, "Oh, hey, yeah, like you know, how do you think, you know, like you know, tomorrow?" And I'm like, "I don't know, we'll see, right?" Like it's like we wrote a bunch of, and she was like, "Well, oh, you don't seem too confident." I said, "Oh, no, no, no. Like, I said, but like, I'm a realist. I'm like, we wrote a whole bunch of jokes. I don't know if they're gonna laugh. I'm thinking like, you know, I'm not comparing myself to Chris Rock, but you know, it's like I don't know. We built a bunch of stuff, but we have never delivered it yet. It's not like we workshopped this stuff, we focus grouped it or anything like that. We had an idea. We thought like I think we're pretty good at saying like, you know, there's fluff and then there's good stuff. And then the fulfilled meeting was when I was sitting in the back seeing you and Mike and Christina just owning your roles. And when you were up there and doing your piece on shifting new paradigms and mindsets of just like you had told me like, hey, I'm going to do some stuff different. You didn't have to run it by me, right? You're just, I'm doing this, I'm making it my own. Christina doing the same thing, Mike going up there and doing his thing, and then seeing people lean in and engage, and then both Ginger, the two EVPs, one of the heads of HR and the head of IT, like, Brett, the head of IT, I've never taken, this is really good stuff. Like, I've never taken so many notes, and they're sitting there, and I'm like, I don't know if we nailed it, but we did a really good job.
Yeah.
I thought and everybody in there said we exceeded their expectations, right? And not only that, we weren't just making balloon animals, and the inside joke to that, right? I think we were giving them some meaningful stuff. I think it was, again, going back to like, this is useful stuff. I mean, because we could have done fun stuff and
Sure.
arts and crafts and things like that. Puzzles. I'm just kidding. But that was again, we didn't, but that was
Yes.
fun, right? I do miss a fun factor. I'm more like Monica and Friends. Like, my fun is like organized. So whenever I am asked to do, I'm like, you need somebody fun. Oh, you're fun. And I'm like, no, I'm funny sarcastically, but I'm not fun. I'm very organized. Like fun for me is that, like, it's the work. And so I always have to pull it, like, I'll pull you and Christina in, right? Because it's like, yeah, because I wouldn't have thought about that. I'm like, like, Jamie brought in baskets I brought in the food. She brought in baskets to display the food. Right. And then when she looked at it again, my aesthetics, I'm like, that looks beautiful. Right. But I'm much more of a stoic, like super clean, like aligned everything, stuff like that. She added that flavor to it. Right. So,
Sure.
but I don't know if that answers your question, but that was,
Absolutely.
that really, like, yes, I want to do more of that stuff. And that it's
Sure.
been 5 months since we've done that, right? And it's like, how do we find more opportunities to do that versus audits and fixing the LMS and stuff like that? So
Yes. The stuff that
yeah,
still needs to get done.
the whirlwind, right? When you
The
get into that
whirlwind, that's
book, the
it. Yes.
whirlwind, yeah,
40X, yes.
yeah,
Awesome. Well, David, I really appreciate your time and consideration
cool.
for this to help me complete this project. And it gives me more insights into your mindset and what you value at work. So I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
thanks
Happy
for
to
taking the
help.
time.
I'll hit stop recording, and then I'll get it over to you, the link, so that you can get it.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Right on.
Awesome. Take care.